You don't know the power of Director Krennic. No.
You stand
Later.
here.
On my achievement.
Welcome back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. As always, we're your host, Mike.
Hello there.
Myself, Nate. Hello there. And you know him well, Uncle.
Hello there. Well.
You know
know
him well.
Um,
The uncle and
the
the uncle and I.
When I stand there with the uncle. Just now the whole
That's
thing.
not
is just,
bad.
that's not good.
I'm still
pretty good.
getting over my cold.
Yeah,
Same.
that was.
I mean, the
I'll be
cold's
honest,
gone. I just don't have much.
when
of
I
a
started-
voice.
When I started delivering that, I thought this is not going to go well.
No,
And I
it went-
kind of backed out of it.
You
We
should have.
don't. You can replay the note if you want. It wasn't way off.
You should have hung in
Wasn't
there.
way off.
wasn't
It was
way
good.
No, it's good. All right, people didn't come to hear me
Welcome
sing.
back. They're clicking away.
Yeah.
We are excited to dive into Andor Season
We're already
2.
off the rails.
Just have an Obi-Wan
Oh,
quote.
where?
The sound of 1,000 clicks suddenly
I also
clicked
love-
and died out.
It's that, and then he quickly goes,
Sorry.
continue your training. And they're just kind of like
He's hurting.
The way he's
Yeah.
got like a migraine because he just felt an entire planet destroyed, and then he
Right.
goes, well, you should
No,
continue
you
with your
should
lessons.
continue hitting meaningless
Like,
laser
wow.
boats.
Interesting.
Sorry, Nate.
No, you're good. We're
steer the
we're
ship.
excited to dive into Andor. A little bit of a recap of season 1, but also some hype and discussion around season 2.
It's Andor
Um,
season.
There's been a lot of
Oh.
information that's come out about season 2,
Seems like it's
even
important.
things that seem to maybe have been confirmed that are taking place, and so if we do discuss any of those things, we'll make sure to mention potential spoiler alerts before that happens. But
Yeah.
season 2, we're excited. We're excited to talk about it. It seems like the hype and the buzz around Disney and Lucasfilm is really out there. They're all over social media hyping up Andor and releasing episodes from season 1 on every platform they can imagine to
Yeah.
try and get more people over to watch season 2. But yeah.
Let's start off the discussion with this. When they first announced Andor 4 or 5 years ago, however many years ago,
Yeah.
when they announced, like around the time when Mandalorian was announced,
Right.
they announced one of the other shows that'll be one of the first things coming out is Andor. What was your initial reaction before seeing any of the show, but just thinking, oh, interesting. Like, at that time period, a lot of us, I'm sure, thought, like, oh, they can do Star Wars shows. You've got this new show, The Mandalorian. I wonder what that's going to be about. And then your mind races to probably where a lot of our minds had gone for years before of, oh, you've got those shows, or you've got those main characters out there, like
I mean, my
like
first
an
thoughts were
Obi-Wan,
like
or
Obi-Wan,
Right.
yeah, an Obi-Wan, a Boba Fett, but immediately you're like, oh,
Han Solo.
Andor.
Right.
So what was your all's initial reaction?
That
just
was
when
announced. That was announced at that investor meeting, right?
I
With
think so.
all the other
2020
things.
investor
Yeah.
meeting, I
It
believe.
kind of blended in for me.
Which,
It was kind of
Yeah.
like, oh,
Think-
I
Yeah.
love that time.
yeah,
Love Rogue One. Could be cool. I don't know.
yeah.
But
There's a little surprise kind
Acolyte
of.
was
yeah.
toward the top. Like, oh, this is wow. This
They had
looks
announced
cool.
Taika doing a movie.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan.
Back then,
Oh,
yeah.
right. So it
Yeah.
was kind of in the middle.
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. Yeah.
I think that was part of it too.
Yeah.
I think so. I think Andor, yeah, I mean, of that list, I think I was most excited for maybe every other show. Not that I wasn't excited for Andor, but I was
Yeah.
like, huh. I think it was the one I was most like, oh, that's interesting.
A whole show about
Whereas, like,
the
Ahsoka,
non-main
I was
character of
Yes.
a secondary
A
movie.
non-main character of someone who we already know, like, their outcome.
Yeah.
So there's already
True.
that
True.
sort of attachment to the character, or
That's
at least
true.
the future of what
Yeah.
comes. We're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like,
yeah.
how tied to this character are we going to get, knowing the outcome already? We've
Mhm.
already seen the movie. And, yeah, it's a secondary character to the main story of what's going on in that time period. So, yeah, I remember thinking, like, huh, that's interesting. Oh, but Acolyte.
Oh,
Ooh,
man.
that's
we get
oh,
to see
Ahsoka.
that.
We get Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Oh, we're gonna get Kenobi. Like, it was. Those are the things that I was
Yeah.
like, oh
Right,
wow, this is gonna
right.
be amazing. And then Andor was like, yeah, cool.
And if you remember, they didn't announce Boba Fett at that.
He wasn't there yet.
No.
It was the surprise at the end of
Mando.
Mando season 2
Yeah.
without warning. Then in the post credits,
Yeah.
Like, what?
boom, Book of Boba Fett, and like it's already filmed and it's coming
Yeah.
December. You're like,
Yeah.
whoa, what in the world?
That I was shocked how they kept that
That was
under wraps.
totally. And then also that got all of us for the next 7-8 Disney Plus shows to never skip past
What's
the
done-
end. Of
yeah,
what's, is there
right.
anything else? And I'm like, oh no. Turns out it was just kind of that one time.
Forever
But,
was like, look at all these people watching the credits.
It's great. Next time he's just gonna put in an ad for whatever project he's in. Like at the end, it's just gonna be a trailer for Swingers, like his
It's just-
movie from
it's-
30 years
it's
ago.
Chef
It's just gonna
2.
be
It's
Swingers, the
yes.
next generation.
yes, it's
Chef
just the
2.
next generation. That's it.
Yeah.
No, I was similar. I think I was like, oh, that, secondary character from Rogue One, which Rogue One already felt like it was a very specific puzzle piece that was
Right.
fitting into this missing time period.
It was a Star Wars story, but
It was a
wasn't.
Star Wars story, but
Yeah.
it felt like, oh, it's interesting that, are a lot of people super interested in this character's backstory? And that was kind of where it first went.
Yeah.
Fast forward to us obviously getting to, even along the way, hearing some of the cast that was announced, Skarsgård being involved. You're like, oh, he's a big name actor. That's always cool.
Yep.
Then it started coming out that Saw Gerrera would be in there with Forrest
Yeah,
Whitaker,
yeah.
and like he's a award-winning actor.
But our questions were like, are we gonna get Krennic? Are we gonna get?
Yeah, it was
Some
kind
of
of
these
like,
other ones, like
what is
where?
the? Yeah, it was
Vader.
a lot of what is.
Yeah, are we gonna
He's
get?
been
Vader?
in the rebellion
Right.
since he was 6 years old, I think, is the Rogue One quote when he's talking about.
Yeah.
When Andor was just talking about why he's in the fight and getting your hands dirty and all this stuff. So we're like, okay, we're gonna see the backstory of that, kind of the beginnings of
Yeah.
the rebellion. But then also
Yeah.
my mind went, we have Star Wars Rebels. Is this gonna be kind of like animated?
Yeah.
Is Rebels a more adult version is Andor?
Right.
Which a little bit, except Andor is even more in the rebellion because even Rebels is Rebels, but there's also this whole Force aspect and Kanan and
Yeah, it's
Ezra.
Rebels, but it only
It's-
follows them.
Yes, this is
This is
boots on the ground,
Mon Mothma.
uprising,
Yeah.
political intrigue.
Yeah.
It's so once we got that first season and just even a couple episodes in, I think we were all like, whoa, this is. I mean, I always don't. I don't love to compare this show versus this show versus this show. So this is not to put any other show down, but I think we all, and again, it's there's a reason why it's so critically acclaimed. I think when we saw it and we started watching it, it felt, and I mean this as a compliment, it didn't feel like a Disney Plus show. Like, meaning I feel like
Yeah.
there's sometimes in the Disney Plus shows, even the ones I super love,
It
Um,
felt. I can
there's
tell you what it
times
felt
that feel
more
like, oh, this feels like,
Max.
yeah, totally.
It
This
did.
feels not like,
It
this
felt
feels
more
more like an
HBO
HBO
Max.
show.
Right.
Uh,
It did.
As far as like the writing, the seriousness of it, the kind of, I think the tight storytelling, which I think that
Yeah.
we've talked about with some of the other
Dialogue.
shows. Yeah, we've talked about with some of the other shows. It feeling like, oh, yeah, this feels, because I don't know if it's because it's on Disney Plus, if it was on something else, would I receive this differently? But it feels a little bit almost like because it's on Disney Plus, some of the shows feel like it's intentionally a little bit more on the silly or open to younger audience side, even
Sure.
if it's a serious story.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I don't want Star Wars to be closed off and just for like a certain age
No,
range.
I mean
but
that is the core.
but this is
of-
definitely it has a different feel to it, different writing to it, and then also I think just has a very specific tone that I think some of the other shows that I really love. We've talked about some of the lesser episodes feel a lot of times just because it feels kind of a jarring swing of tone sometimes, where it's like, oh, this show that had this super serious this also has
Mando. We see that in Mando. A
yeah,
little bit.
also has beep bop boop, skadoosh, like in some stuff. You're like, oh, I'm trying to stay in the story and not get taken out of it. Where this is like, even with famous actors in it, it's like it very much feels like a kind of cohesive feel throughout. But
It
yeah,
does. So do you want to talk about about season what makes this
Let's
unique?
do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
and
go
then
down that path.
we got one question
Yeah.
from someone here in chat that we can get to here about music. So you'll like that one.
Ooh, I love it.
We'll get to that.
I like it.
Love
Yeah.
it.
What do you think made? Why do you think people respond to season 1 in the way that
I have a
we
couple
do?
thoughts. One is related to music, but the other one is it's a subtle thing, but when you watch the original trilogy, it took for granted all of these amazing things as if they're just part of the world. They didn't say, "Hey, look at these
Yeah.
robots." It didn't
Yeah.
say, "Hey, look at these blasters,"
Yeah.
or "Hey, look at this lightsaber." It just was assumed it was part of the world.
Yeah.
Andor does that to a degree where things Star Wars just feel like they're organic.
Yeah.
They don't. There's not calling attention to the fact that the speeder bikes. It just
Yeah,
ships
it just is.
landing.
Yeah.
It does. It feels very organic. So the Star Wars is the background to the story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's a story that takes place in this universe, but it's not the center.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It's just that's where this is happening.
Yeah.
Which I think Tony
kinda
Gilroy
his
has
strength.
said.
Yeah.
He's even said before, like I was brought in to do this. I had this idea, but
It just happens to be
and we
in the
kinda
Star
even
Wars
joke
universe.
about it because
yeah.
everyone it's like the worst kept
He's a
secret out there is
non-Star
that
Wars
he's like
Star
not
Wars.
a massive Star Wars fan.
Right.
He talks about it all the time. In fact, it was in the news this week
Which
because of the
he
Kathy.
could hate Star Wars, but if he keeps making stuff like this,
Well, because
I
of the
don't care.
Kathy
For
interview,
sure. Right.
because of the Kathy interview, did you see that he had
Yeah.
had to officially he
Had
came
to
out
talk
and
about,
had some to talk
"I'm
about
not
whether or not
mad."
he would come back and do more Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she said
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
she
What
said
did he
I
s-
don't think we could get him back. Like
I read that article.
Yeah.
and she was like, we've loved having him, but he came in Rogue One. It's been a decade of him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't think he had any plans on being here for a decade.
Yeah.
And he said in a recent interview, he said, "No, I'm definitely done. Like,
Yeah.
I did not plan on being here for a decade. A decade's a long time, and there's other people out there to do it. I did not want to be here for this long, but I've enjoyed it, and yeah, there's no chance.
I got other stuff I want to do.
yeah. Also, I'm
Yeah.
done for sure.
Which is exactly what we expected.
Yeah.
To say, which also I think is, I don't think we need to ask our creators. It's different if you're a studio head or something, but I don't want creators to feel like, oh, if I'm coming into Star Wars, I better be here for 10 years
10 years
minimum.
at least.
Like,
yeah.
okay,
True.
like that's even if you're doing a full trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
JJ wasn't involved for 10 years. Like,
Right.
I mean, so that's a long.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
yeah.
So yeah, I think what you're hitting on as far as the
Yeah.
feel of it. Oh, you said you wanted to touch on music.
Yeah,
Is that-
that's another thing. Yeah, that's subtle. The way they treat the environment, it's just this is taken for granted. It's not, hey, look at this. Ooh,
Mm.
oh, watch this thing. It doesn't. And
Yeah.
other shows, I wouldn't say they do that, but there is an element of like there's a build up to
Yeah.
the reveal of the Force user, or
yeah.
this is just what it is. It also taps into our the nostalgia. We talk about the power of
Yes.
nostalgia
Yeah.
going back, and they capture it. I mean,
They do.
somehow they got these people to. It feels like it feels like the 70s with the
Yeah.
Empire, the way they're
It
Yeah.
really does.
dressed,
It does.
the hair, the way the tech looks. It's Star Wars version
There's certain
of
things
the,
that just
of the
clicked well.
galaxy far long ago. That odd kind of
Yeah.
text and not just. I mean, just the way that the technology's laid out in the Imperial
Yeah.
data pads and all that stuff. It just has a certain look to it.
Yeah.
And they nailed it. And then the music aspect there, they do use the original Force theme. It's in the trailer. It appears in the show sporadically. So the music feels full on Star Wars
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even more so. The other ones tease it, which if you tease a motif that's like another thing, it almost in some ways is worse because it reminds you that it's not.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
If
agree.
you go a completely different direction, it doesn't hearken to that stuff.
I
But if
agree.
you're close, you're like, oh, it didn't do the.
but it didn't get to the moment.
It's
that
almost
yeah.
there.
You're
but it's
making me think
not.
of something that I think I
Yeah.
was planning on kind of going in this direction a little bit, but you had a perfect segue into something I think that also kind of makes this different from the other shows. And again, we're a big fan here of basically all the Star Wars stuff that they've been doing, obviously to varying degrees. That
Yes.
doesn't mean
That's right.
that that doesn't mean that I feel like I have enjoyed Acolyte the same level I enjoyed Andor.
Right.
Even though there's things in there I really like about Acolyte,
Yeah.
and there's other things I'm like, oh, I can tell this didn't work for me as much, or this is something that maybe kind of threw me out of the story a little bit. But this is when you were just saying about coming close to it and it not being it.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me overall of one of the things I think that works really well with Andor is I think some of the other shows, and you can correct me or chime in if you think I'm wrong, but I was thinking about this of when we compare it to other shows, why, so kind of of a reverse, why do I feel, what if I had, there's multiple reasons for all these shows, but if I had to pinpoint like one major bullet point for each of the shows that I feel like have not been as universally loved, I can almost have a clear, I think, pinpoint of, okay, even though I like this show, the general consensus about this show feeling like it's underwhelming or coming up short is because of this. So tell me if you think I'm wrong, if I'm going down this real quick. I think for Obi-Wan, unfortunately, I think it's different than some of the other shows. I think the budget thing feels the most obvious in
The
Obi-Wan
scale of it.
as far as the it for it to
Yeah.
be a big character, a story that we
Especially
kind of are
compared to
familiar
the
with what's coming.
expectations that come with Anakin.
The budget
and
decision, I
Obi-Wan.
think, really hurt
Yeah.
it. Acolyte, I think, different. I think Acolyte is a little bit more feeling like, oh, this isn't exactly the show that I feel like that was being pitched for a few years.
Yeah.
As far as Dark Side show, this is the words that they were using for a long time. Dark Side show, murder mystery type of a thing. Even though there was some mystery.
Tapping into the dark, like seeing more of the dark side of the
more
force.
of the dark
and
side of the
spirit,
force.
like
We
the
got some
elements
of
there.
that stuff, but it's definitely like told in a different way
And-
that I feel like.
And I don't think we don't like the Jedi looking stupid.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Yeah.
don't think.
Yeah.
I-
He told us a story that we're uncomfortable with.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't. Yeah, that's the thing is
Don't
I
like
You
think
made
if
us.
it was.
You tried to make us root for the bad guy at the end.
That's the thing.
And I
though, is
did.
I think that's
I
the.
did.
Yeah, and I think that's the. I honestly think that maybe is the biggest, the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around with Acolyte, or to like get
Yeah.
to, is you made us feel at the end like they actually, like the twins actually accomplished something in committing to go
Yes.
follow and
Yeah.
become a you know,
Well-
an apprentice
Give
to
in
the
and follow.
Well,
give in, and I was like,
Yeah.
but that's wrong.
And
to
we were
that
saying, but we
point-
want to see the dark side journey. And they gave it to us. We're like, I don't want to see the dark side journey.
Well, here's also, I think to that point though, I do think if it had been the dark side journey, but told, so here's kind of what I think hit me a little bit the wrong way with Acolyte at the end of it, especially because I think I was really enjoying it throughout, and actually to me, even some of the episodes in the middle that some people started like falling off. I thought the end to me kind of really, to me, was the least satisfying part of it. Is if you have a murder mystery
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like the mystery, once you get the answers, that the answers aren't necessarily super satisfactory, or if you're watching Knives Out,
Right.
and then at the end you find
The
out
butler
that the
actually
answer
did
is
it.
pretty telegraphed or something like that,
Yeah.
then you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, like one of the things that I'm on the
Yeah.
edge of my seat, and then it kind of goes. So
Mhm.
I'm not even saying like, oh, I would make different decisions or anything, but I think the telling it from the dark side perspective, what was tough for me was I would have been fine and like would have loved from the dark
Killing all the
side
Jedi.
perspective, meaning like we spend more time with the dark side when the light is not around. Like imagine a dark side perspective. I'm not
Yeah.
even saying go to
Yeah.
a different time period, but an example would be if we got scenes, say in original trilogy era, and it's Palpatine and Vader, and they're talking about how weak the Jedi are,
Yeah.
and this and this and this.
That makes more
We
sense.
know as an
Yeah.
audience
Mm-hmm.
the Jedi aren't weak, but if this is their perspective and
Yeah.
we're hearing their perspective, what it felt like to me as an Acolyte was almost a message at the end that the Jedi are accepting, like, yeah, like we're as culpable in this as they are. We're like what we saw with the Jedi cover up and stuff wasn't just a perspective from the dark side,
It was
but
actually
it felt
what-
like almost a
Yeah.
statement on like
yeah,
the
what actually
Jedi.
happened.
Like
It felt
typically,
a little bit like, oh yeah, no, the Jedi
Yeah.
are not this or not this
I
kind of.
agree.
Not that they're infallible or like that they're ever perfect, but it kind of made it feel like the whole thing is fundamentally flawed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't feel like the Jedi ideals are flawed.
Yeah.
I feel like they fail to live up to it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's such a high standard, and that's kind of been the story of Star Wars throughout for the Jedi. But the idea itself is
Yeah.
built on where it feels like at
good.
the end,
Yeah.
it kind of made you want to think like, yeah, like it felt a little bit like the show saying like,
Yeah.
but not just
The whole
not
thing
just a
is
Sith
bad
saying this,
idea.
not just a Sith telling
No, it
you
actually
this,
is.
but don't you now as an audience member kind of feel like the Jedi just barge into villages and steal children? And I was like, I don't really feel that way, but it kind of feels like you want me
Yeah.
to feel that.
yeah.
Right.
So that was hard to sit on.
Yeah.
It
Um,
was.
For other shows, Book of Boba Fett to me, there's so much in there I like. I think the biggest thing for Book of Boba Fett, the biggest, and there's some other low moments, but I think the overall thing that
you
hurt
know what I'm
Book
gonna
of
say.
Boba Fett is the fact that I think they went the direction they did with the character of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Like, meaning, it's not even like, I don't even want to compare it to like the Last Jedi decision of, oh, we haven't seen Luke at this time period and
Gotta
he's
drop
older, and
him
now
in.
in my Luke is like this. The thing for me is not that Boba Fett wasn't the Boba Fett of old, but more that he wasn't the Boba Fett from season 2 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So like we've
Yeah.
already established
there
Boba
seemed
Fett
to
in
be
this
some
time period.
inconsistencies.
Yeah.
So it even would catch me a little bit. I'd have to check myself in the
Yeah.
he's meeting with the mayor's major domo. He's had this. Wait, this is before or after? And you're trying to think of. He's acting like this, but later we saw him be ruthless. Why is he? He's already had this change of heart, and I just kept feeling like, man, I understand why people who love Boba Fett, and he was such a minimalist character. That now when we dive into him, the main overall thing is that Boba Fett's not as hardcore kind of as you initially thought.
Right,
Yeah.
And I think there's a good story there, but I think that is understandably hard for
Yes.
people that are like,
Yeah.
oh, I kind of want to go back to just when I knew 5 lines about Boba Fett, and he was just like,
You could fill in what you wanted.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
tough. But and the last thing for Ahsoka,
Yeah.
I think Ahsoka is hard and struggled because you had to know for a general audience.
Yeah, it was a
You
little
had
inside
to
baseball.
know it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was too inside baseball
To
for a lot of
get
people.
the full
You had
extent
to know who
of
Ezra
Ahsoka,
was. You had to know who Thrawn was.
Who's
Yes.
the blue guy?
you could enjoy the story,
Right.
but the
world
reveals
between
weren't-
worlds. There's a
the
lot
reveals
of
aren't
stuff.
as big.
That's
Like
right.
the Ezra reveal, the world between worlds, going to a different planet, the Purgles, like the
Sure.
space like the whales. I mean, everything like
I mean, put it this way: if I didn't know if I didn't watch Rebels, I think I would have been completely lost as to
yeah,
wait, she's talking to Anakin how? Like even for us, it wasn't completely explained.
That's
like,
right.
They didn't mention world between worlds
No, they
in
didn't.
No.
there. We're like, wait, is she drowning? So this is a force stream or a force projection, but
She's
it's
getting-
the world between worlds circle and like
yeah,
the visual
Yeah.
that I can imagine if I'm someone who didn't watch Rebels.
yeah.
I'm-
They still
I'm-
don't explain.
you
We still
wouldn't
don't really
know.
know.
And you're also
No.
not attached to if you didn't watch Rebels and Clone Wars, you don't even know who Ahsoka is.
Yeah, we still
Yeah.
don't really
If
know.
you're an
if it's
original
just-
trilogy person or even just the movies,
Yeah.
you're like, wait, this is a whole show based on an entire cast that I don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about this Ezra person who's already missing because he's with Thrawn, who we also
we
don't
don't
know.
know.
That there's just a lot that
Yeah,
for
And
us
now
who
why
really
is she
liked
talking
it.
to Anakin?
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's-
True.
There's just a
True.
lot of I think that you're like
Oh,
you
that's her
have to know
master.
this. That to me that was
Yeah.
the show the most of. You have to know what's going
It
on.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But
That's
but for this show it was kind of pitched, and I know initially there was kind of a little bit more of like a spy thriller that they had talked about kind of overall as a show, which I think they went like Mon Mothma's version, I think,
Yep.
in the show, in Luthen, gets into that, mixed with the Rogue One rebellion uprising Andor side of it that feels to me like it fits really well together.
Yeah.
Like that it feels pretty much like the show they pitched except executed even to a higher level than I think any of us kind of
Yeah.
really imagined.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think that's one of the hard things, and I think that's the other thing with Boba Fett is that they pitched it as like the Godfather in Star Wars, and I just don't think it was that.
no,
So I think that when you compare the other shows, it's hard because there's like some kind of obvious thing and now again, notice I didn't mention Mandalorian. We had no expectations of Mandalorian. To
No.
me, Mandalorian exceeded all expectations. Season 3 has kind of its ups and downs, I think, but I think that when you think of Andor, to me, it's one that I came in with the lowest expectations, and it's exceeded all
Completely.
expectations.
Yeah.
I want to get to that question too. One of the things that's so strong in this is the story. I can look at
Yeah.
almost every other show
Yeah.
and say that
Totally.
There
that
were-
the story
story's not
gap
strong.
there.
Yeah,
There's a hole.
definitely.
That's my
Almost
big. I
all
mean,
of
that was
them.
my biggest criticism with season 3 of Mando.
Yeah.
Was that it felt like the story ended after
There's a
season 2.
Something. Is
Yeah.
It felt like the buildup was to season
Yeah.
2, like they had this vision, and then season 3 was, well, what do we do next? That's
And
kind of how
for
it felt.
sure.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
point to moments in Acolyte. Why is
Yeah,
Why is
Kenobi.
Basil
why is
not-
Basil sabotaging?
Yeah.
Why did he get on the speeder bike and fly in there again? I don't
Yeah.
know. Why? Why is Boba Fett so nice? Like,
Yeah.
there's just questions that
number
you're like,
of-
I don't.
Fett goes the entire show.
I don't.
So
So
this is one of my biggest gripes.
right.
He goes the entire show to become the crime lord, and as soon as it happens, he goes,
I want this.
I don't think I'm cut out for this. It's like,
I think that's a young man's
Why is Flea taking Princess Leia as prisoner?
Why does he not catch her in 10 seconds once the 10-year-old starts running away?
And we
Yeah.
and we
That's
love
what he
these
does.
shows.
We do.
We
but
love the
those
shows.
are the
Yeah.
moments. Those
Yeah.
little moments we go.
You're like, ah.
kind of takes you out of it a little bit. Yeah.
Andor so far
Yeah.
has been rock solid.
Rock solid.
When you see something, you're
Agree.
like, that makes sense. I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Except for the
Um,
bricks, of course, and
except for the-
screws.
Except for the bricks.
Yeah.
The audience people who are watching right now who don't know that reference.
Yeah.
We won't even mention names, but there was a famous Star Wars YouTuber podcaster who said he doesn't like Andor because it has bricks and screws, and bricks and screws take him out of Star Wars.
Which I think he
like,
has since
you do
come
know-
around
yeah.
to
People are
also
like, you do
joking
know that,
about
like, there's-
that take.
There's bricks and screws in like every Star Wars
Every one.
thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are no zippers though.
I do want to get to this in the there's no in the chat. Star Wars fanatics here says, "What do you guys think about the music on the first Andor season 2 trailer?"
Oh yeah. Thoughts? What I mean, do you have a thought first?
I
on
gotta
it, do you
remember the
think?
first trailer.
So you're talking about not the behind the scenes that came out, because
No,
the behind
the
the scenes that came
trailer.
out, the one before
Yeah.
had it was not orchestral. It was not Star Wars.
No,
music.
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the
yeah.
one that
Revolution.
it felt a little more
It was,
Revolution.
the
Yeah.
Revolution. Yeah, Revolution.
felt a little more Guardians
not
of
the Beatles.
Galaxy.
Yes.
But yeah, they're just wondering what you thought, and they said for me, the Andor season 2 trailer didn't give me the Star Wars feel with the music they chose.
It definitely was a different decision. It's something that stood out to me.
Oh
I
yeah, for
noticed
sure,
it.
for sure.
I would say I felt similar to Skeleton Crew had
Yeah,
that
little
the
Guardians
trailer. Yeah, what was the song? Because they did it in.
You're right,
uh,
Guardians or
They did it in Huttese. For
Yeah,
the,
they did.
For
They
the-
did.
for-
They did.
I'm trying to think of what the song was.
Which
Major
who
Tom.
comes up with
Major
that
Tom.
idea?
That's what it was.
Yeah, and so
In Huttese.
it was
Wow.
when in Skeleton Crew. I remember that stood out to me because I thought, oh, I think that's the first time I've ever heard non-Star Wars music in Star Wars
You mean and when you say that you mean orchestral.
orchestral.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Meaning, there's not. I don't. I'm not watching Book of Boba Fett and Bohemian Rhapsody comes on or something like that. It's
Oh,
like, although
like
this
Iron
a-
Man as Boba
Is
Fett's
this
walking
just-
away.
That's right.
is this just Tatooine?
So what did you guys think of that of the
I understand people not.
Yeah.
Understand people not liking it.
the lights are dimming.
I
Stop
understand
it.
people not liking it. To me, I was so invested in the
Trailer.
trailer, the different visuals and the
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
snippets that it didn't. I don't think like it makes or breaks the trailer for me. Like, do I think
No.
that it could be better with some different music? Perhaps.
Mhm.
But I loved that. I loved that
Yeah.
trailer. But then it was afterwards that I was like, I just saw on the internet that I was like, oh, some people were like, this trailer is amazing, except the music ruins it. And so I didn't feel that, but it did stand out to me. Like it stood out to me. Like I did not notice that the music was different. What do you guys think?
I think, and I think Darth here in the chat actually makes a good point, saying that I think they treat Andor differently. Tony Gilroy doesn't want to do a typical Star Wars. That's just something original so far with the music, so it kind of fits that it's not the typical Star Wars feel. I think I simultaneously agree with what the person here is saying, that I think my first initial thought is, yeah, that doesn't feel Star Wars because it's not a Star Wars. So yes, it didn't feel the music in and of itself did not feel Star Wars. But I also felt like as I watched the trailer that it kind of fit the trailer. Like it almost felt like it fit with what I was watching in the trailer, but also it intentionally made me feel like, oh, but also the music itself doesn't feel Star Wars because obviously it wasn't like a Star Wars score. So I don't know. It didn't really pull me out of it. It stood out to me.
Yeah.
But it didn't pull me out of the trailer. I actually finished the trailer. I was like, oh, I think that was a great trailer. It felt different, but I think it was a good trailer. And I think part of the revolution idea was intentional to show you give a little tease to what's coming.
Yeah. I'm a music guy. I've always been a music guy. I write songs and stuff, and I loved it.
Love the decision to have that music.
Loved it. It created an edge that orchestral could never give you. You couldn't get. It can't be as angry.
Yeah.
It can't capture the
punk rebellion.
You can't capture Eminem, rebellious, angry. We're sick
without
of this. This is it. We're rising up. We're gonna turn the entire world upside down. Right now it starts.
Yeah.
It's very hard to capture that. I love all of the Star Wars music.
Yeah.
I don't love orchestral music necessarily.
Yeah.
I can't hum a theme from Acolyte. I can't at the moment, but it was orchestral.
Yep.
So what I love more than just an orchestra, French horns, strings, what I love the most is the John Williams themes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I love the most.
Yeah.
And I don't usually get those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
true.
I'm not married
now,
to I'm not married to the style necessarily.
Yeah.
I understand why it didn't feel like
it
didn't feel like classic Star Wars.
Yeah. Which I agree.
But
it didn't feel that way, but it also didn't.
It kind of felt like felt like Andor.
Totally.
Which was odd. It felt
like
feels like Andor, which
felt punk rebellion.
It did. It felt.
Yeah. So
I think it gave off the vibe they were intending.
Yeah.
Which was the rebellion.
It also
I didn't
had that
feel that
70s.
way with Skeleton Crew as much.
Yeah.
Didn't quite feel that way. It felt that felt like the genre lended itself more to an Amblin style trailer.
Yeah.
But these are intentional. They're trying to. Andor is trying, I think, maybe more than any show, to reach across the aisle.
Yeah.
To reach into people that don't.
To attract more.
To try to bring.
Well, we've never had. Have we
ever?
Have we ever had a Star Wars trailer of any kind that in the trailer it popped up with reviews? Boom, boom, like Andor did. I don't think so, right? I mean, that trailer was specifically different.
It looked like it for your consideration.
Top show of 2024. Boom, New York Times says.
Yeah.
Boom, and then this.
We haven't really seen.
Yeah.
Where they're like, hey, remember how this show is amazing? Like they
remember that?
Yeah.
They promoting its own show in the trailer itself of like, in case you're not on board yet, let's remind you because it's been a few years. Let's remind you, this is great. And then also I do think that the music, I think there's something to it also about for Star Wars to. And Kathleen Kennedy said this in her recent Deadline interview. It's a fine line, and they're always trying to find the ways of a brand that is now almost 50 years old.
Yeah,
How
she
do you
did talk
keep
about
it
this.
feeling
and
familiar
then
while
make it,
also pressing and helping it grow?
That's
keep
got to
going,
be
because
the most
if you're
challenging.
just replaying the hits of 50 years ago, that maybe plays to an audience that was around and grew up with the stories of
It's
50
nostalgic,
years ago.
but it's not new.
But does that
Right. It's
not
capture?
fresh.
Does that
Yeah.
capture and bring in new audience members?
Yeah.
Does that evolve with the times? Because
Mhm.
just like talk about TV, and talk about all those Disney Plus shows we just talked about, and the way stuff is consumed. I think the movie industry, these different Marvel, everybody is trying to, what we did 15 years ago, 12 years ago,
right.
doesn't necessarily work the same way because people watch shows. And there's so many more shows that are out now versus in 2004, I would watch Lost, and it was the premiere thing on ABC, and it was the water cooler show.
Yeah.
And it went on for 23 episodes a season. For 23 weeks, we're going to talk about this. This is coming out
I don't know if that would
4 weeks.
I don't know if that would work anymore.
I don't think it does. I think that model is dead.
It's
I don't see that happening.
well,
anymore.
how often in your life? Think about it. How often in your life? And maybe I'm weird. Do you sit down and watch an entire 45-minute show without stopping? Like without just stopping for a minute?
It's
2 minutes. Check your phone. Go to the bathroom. Somebody talks to you.
make some food. Do
I
something.
often will do that. Like I'll
Yeah.
watch and something comes up, and
Yeah.
there some episodes I'll just watch straight through. But there are a lot of shows that or movies.
Oh yeah.
Like we just
If it's Star Wars, I'm watching
Stop
it
in
all
the
the way
middle.
through.
but
No, you're
It's
right.
just-
Most
you're
of the
right.
stuff.
it's the world is different.
Yeah,
Star
it
Wars
is.
may be
It
unique
is.
for us,
Yeah.
but for most people, they're watching
Snippets,
segments of
yeah.
it. It's different.
That's true.
It's
yeah,
odd.
I agree.
It's
It's like,
also
I can fit in another 20 minutes. I'll start it.
Like
and I'll
we did
finish it
Stranger
later.
Things. We did it all the time.
Yeah.
We'd watch, we walk
Oh
away,
yeah.
come
Chip
back.
away at
Come
it.
back,
For sure.
Lost. We rewatch Lost. We would do that sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
just a
I did
different-
see
Yeah.
some. It's funny you bring that up too, because I think it's a great point. I saw it was within the last year. There was an article. And now there's been outliers in movies that have since Moana 2 made $1 billion. Deadpool made $1.5 billion. But they were talking about the movie industry and how that changes and how our attention span
Yeah.
with what we watch, because we have cell phones and we have this and we have so many different, like you're talking about, we have
Yeah.
ability at
Yeah.
home.
Short form video
to
is
pause.
So big, yeah.
Yeah, TikTok's a big thing. You're watching a minute-long video.
You're moving on. Yeah.
People talked about how there's also just a lot of people. There was like a poll or something like that of people talking about reasons for their lack of going to the movie theater nowadays, and there was multiple things. One was for budget reasons. It's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Second was for convenience. A lot of people think if I wait 2 months, I'm gonna get that at home.
That's
and I
right.
can watch that at home.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the third,
for
the third
free
thing
or,
was
on
that
streaming.
the third thing was I don't sit anywhere for 3 hours straight and not get on my phone or not have to go do something for my kids or not. When people were like, I like being able to have that same movie at home,
Flexibility.
watch an hour, and then if I have to go do groceries, I go do groceries. I come back and I keep watching the movie.
Right.
Where if I'm at the theater, I'm just at the theater, and it's part of the magic of movies because like I love being in that world and doing it.
Yeah.
And, like,
But that's
thinking
not
about
everybody.
anything else.
Yeah.
But it becomes harder, especially when nowadays there's so much to watch. There's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, every single time I open up my Apple TV, and I see an ad for like an Apple show, which
Mhm.
usually has really high production. I mean, like I still haven't gotten to Severance yet, and I know that it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
I know there's a
unreal.
ton of
Just started
there's
that.
so many things that are out there that I'm like, I have a list of shows that not only am I interested in, that I know I'm gonna love based on the people I've
Yeah,
talked
you
to
just
and the
gotta
things that I haven't got to yet
find
because
it.
I have so many other things. Where it used to be, I'd watch Lost and then I'd be, oh well, all right, season 7 of 24 is on. We'll watch that, and then
Well, Breaking Bad, we
I'll-
did
and
the
I'll
same
see ya.
thing. Let's
Yeah.
watch one more.
Yeah.
and you would watch it, but then
It-
you'd wait a year, and then the next season would
Yeah.
come out.
Do you-
But now it's I do this, and then 2 months later, the next Star Wars show comes out, and the next month, the Penguin comes out, and then this Marvel show
Right.
comes
There's
out.
so
and this
much
is
I
just
can't
So
keep.
much.
There's so many shows I want to watch and that I just can't even get
It's
around to.
overload. Do you think it may be a double-edged sword here with Andor? The fact that they're releasing 3 at once. Are people still going to spread that out? Like, are they still going to watch 1?
I don't know.
wait
It's
a day and
interesting.
watch 2. Wait
It's
a day and watch
interesting
3,
to see. I'm interested to see
or wait a
how
week.
the response is.
Yeah.
I know what I want to do is to just binge all 3
Yeah,
episodes
that's
when
what
it
I
first
wanna
comes
do.
out.
Yeah.
But
Just watch
that's
it as a
also
movie.
not every fan. So
No.
I don't know. I'm interested to see how the, I guess, viewership goes for each
Mhm.
episode. Will people fall behind because they feel like, oh, I got to watch 3 episodes before the next week? Will people fall behind
Yeah.
on
That's
that?
what I mean.
And will that cause viewership issues upon release date? Now, that doesn't mean they won't catch up and
Right.
the viewership in the end will be great. But upon, let's just say, episode 4,
It's a good experiment.
4, 5,
for
and
sure.
6, will 6 have, upon release date,
Yeah.
have lower viewership because people are behind from 1, 2, 3, and now they got to watch 4, 5, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Do you have any predictions? What do you think's gonna happen?
I predict I'm going to love it.
Predict.
Okay.
Love it. Who's gonna die? Who's gonna live?
Predictions.
Who's gonna
I
get
don't
married?
think Luthen makes it.
Don't think he makes it.
I don't think he makes it.
I
Only because a number of these characters are in Rogue One and he's not.
Some of these predictions we're pretty safe on. Mon
I don't think
Mothma.
Andor makes
Well,
it.
I'm on
Eventually.
Oh, do you know what I will say?
What?
I said I don't think Andor makes it.
I
Eventually.
don't think he will
Can
get
I
Eventually.
say something
past
about Mon Mothma?
the Death Star will outlive him.
Mon Mothma. Is Mon Mothma in Ahsoka? Remember they have
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
She is.
Can I say
She
she
is.
ages fantastic?
Fantastic.
It's the
Because
same because it's the same.
she's the exact same
Star
as she
Wars.
is in Andor.
Exact same,
She's the
yeah.
exact same as
Star
she is.
Wars.
Pre A New Hope.
Yeah.
She is now 5 years post Return.
We're
of
gonna
the
find
Jedi.
out she's not human. She's just she looks human, but it's a different
Might not be.
species.
Hey.
She might.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think predictions. I think I'd like to hear Nate or Uncle's predictions.
I was just looking at
That's my
Cyril there.
I think
Cyril and Dedra.
he makes my skin crawl.
He
So great.
does.
It feels like such like a real world. Like, oh no, he ends up in an insane asylum.
Oh,
Like,
my
he
goodness.
feels
I think
like a
we're
real-
gonna-
Or
I say real
high
world.
up in
Star
the
Wars, but he
Empire
feels like a-
somewhere we
Here's
don't
the
know
thing.
about.
That's exactly
Exactly.
what I was. I think
Yeah.
he is exactly
On the
what
Death Star.
he is exactly. Yeah, he gets a job on the Death Star.
We're gonna have people planted. We would like you to go to the Death Star. Wonderful. It's a great promotion.
yes.
And then
I think
foreshadowing.
Ooh.
Sorry.
I think well, that reminds me.
He's just eating his bowl of cereal.
How easy do you
and
think it
then
was to
goes
recruit
Death
people for Death Star 2?
Oh,
That had to be
Not
a
a-
hard pull.
yeah.
Star. Yeah, you're
But-
gonna go on this one, except it's not completely.
Don't worry about the
We're
first
not even
one.
sure if it's operational yet. It's not completed. The last one blown up
Blew up.
by, in your mind, terrorists. Like,
Yeah.
because
Well, they
in
yeah.
Lost
How do you
Stars,
feel?
in Lost Stars, they're terrorists. Like,
Yeah.
because from their
Yeah.
perspective.
They're-
Right.
yeah.
Give it-
Um,
More
But for
prisoners.
Karn,
Kino.
I just have a feeling he is exactly what the like. Even if they deny it,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're rejecting him in some ways,
Right.
he is exactly what they want.
That's exactly right.
He is the exact person who you deny them, but they're so obsessed
Mm-hmm.
with the
oh,
empire
totally. Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
order and trying to fight for the cause, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That he becomes the very thing that they want for someone to be in the empire. I think he'll work his way up.
I think he will. I'm laughing because I'm waiting for that cringy kiss between him.
Oh, I know.
Oh.
The most awkward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their bond is the empire between. Just,
Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
He does.
We'll
if
see
you
what
feel,
happens.
if you think of like, and again, why I think his character is kind of scary. If you want to relate it to any like, I'm trying to think of, I guess, like maybe Nazi Germany or something. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of for things to get as out of control as they get to. You get you obviously have whether it's the empire or if you go like history, there's a mixture of people involved. There's people that are just like there's charismatic leaders that's like a Palpatine or someone that is able to manipulate from the top and able
And they
to
don't
strategically
actually
do stuff.
believe everything
No.
necessarily they say, but it is their vehicle to gain power.
And then
Yes,
you get the
yes.
people
They're
that,
almost
that are so
less psychotic.
yeah, and then you get like the everyday people that are just kind of like, I'm enlisting. It's a job. This, and they
Yeah.
don't fully know what's going on. And then you get those that are mentally off.
Mhm.
And he's like the mentally off that you're like, oh, he's scary because the propaganda of Palpatine speaks directly to this thing in him that is, when buttons are pushed, dangerous to society. Like that.
That's
he is,
right.
That there is an unhinged element to him that he has been. Again, I think of like I while they're different characters, obviously different shows. I think of recently rewatched the first Joker movie.
Yeah.
And he is both equally obviously a villain and responsible for his decisions, and there's also this, he is overlooked, and he is
That's right.
in the Joker's mind too. He frames it in a way that he's always he frames it in a specific way.
That's right.
But there's something off about him and about the Joker that the wrong people push his buttons, and he's psychotic, and it becomes, he feels like he's such a loyalist extremist that he would go that he goes and believes stuff that Palpatine doesn't believe.
No.
Palpatine just knows he's about power. This guy is like,
Tarkin had no intention of ever dying for the Empire.
No, never.
Sio Karn would put his life on the line.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
That's the thing.
It's like
Absolutely.
Tarkin.
It's
It's a vehicle for power.
It's all a vehicle for power.
Is my ship ready?
Like, I
he's
can
not
see
going
it.
to stick
In a
around.
moment of triumph, he's like, he's not
If
like,
he thought
he's
it was
not
going to
going
blow up,
down.
he'd have been out of there.
He
No,
might turn on
just didn't
Deidre
think it was
if he thought she was turning good.
For sure.
Tarkin
He'd be
is
like,
not.
"Alright, you're-
Yeah,
He'd turn
Tarkin
around.
is
You're
not,
out on the Empire?
He would have been
Yeah.
like Himmler, like looking for I'm going to Argentina tomorrow.
Yeah,
If
Yeah.
it's really over, I'm out.
he is not.
I'm going to die for this.
He's not captain of the Titanic, King Theoden, going down with the ship when everyone
No.
knows.
No.
Everyone knows that
I
he's
love
just
it.
out of principle.
That's right. No.
Tarkin thinks evacuate our moment of triumph. They're not.
course
To the
not.
moment, he's been so confident we're not going to lose. Boom. It just
Yeah.
That's the only
explodes.
reason he's still
Yeah.
He
there.
is like, pick me.
I
I'll
will
go fight. I would
fly
die in your
into
honor,
the
and it'd be the honor of a
sun.
lifetime. And you're like, I'll just crazy. I'll blow up that building for you. You're like, whoa. Even the Emperor's like, whoa, dude.
Along
Chill
with the
out.
Empire? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think, so as far as predictions go, are there any other characters you think might, just knowing, it's hard because we know so many of these characters that are new.
Yeah.
new
Bix is going to
characters.
play a bigger role.
Yeah, I
We've
think.
seen that.
I think,
the
is it
trailer you see.
Brasso? What's his buddy's
Oh
name?
yeah. Is it Brasso?
Brasso.
Yeah.
I think he'll have I mean, we see him in the trailer. It
You're
looks
talking
like
about
he
his
might
buddy-
have a bigger role.
Yeah.
He beat them up with the
With the-
tablet
with the brick.
The brick.
The
Yeah.
brick,
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, don't say brick.
They have
but
bricks and stuff.
I
That
think
doesn't
we'll.
make sense.
I think I am interested to see Dietrich's role in this. It
Yeah.
seems like through the kind of rebellion, the battle there,
Yeah.
that she kind of seemed to be a little shaken
Right.
about what. Oh, this is like.
This is actually
This is actually war. This is actually like I can't just walk in and
Mm-hmm.
just oversee everything and be totally safe and fine because people bow down to the Empire. This is like, it seemed like when Karn, approaches her, that she's pretty shaken up.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see kind of how her character gets fleshed out more in this. Does she double down on the Empire and we need to eradicate these terrorist rebels, or is it she's kind of trying to figure out what more is going on?
And I love how Gilroy has kept the naming convention that George Lucas had, where doesn't matter, just say it however.
Oh yeah.
Andor, Dedra, Deidre.
Yes.
It's just doesn't matter. I mean,
Cassian.
because people do that in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they've done it in this show.
They have.
It's
They have.
intentional now.
Totally.
Like he's like, yeah.
I do unfortunately think Luthen is I think he's too high up in the rebellion
Yeah.
to survive and not be part of Rogue One
Yeah, I think
and
so.
and even the the original trilogy with Mon Mothma. Like
Yeah.
he's too connected to Mon
Yeah,
Mothma
he'll
to not be in sight and be
he'll
alive
go down.
when Mon Mothma.
It really could be. It could be a Luke Obi-Wan scenario, where that could be the catalyst that pushes Cassian all the way,
Yeah.
all the way.
True.
all the way in. Like, okay, that's. I mean,
Because he is the sole figure that
He's
really
there
has
now.
got Cassian now to buy in.
right.
And he even teased it with his speech of like, I'm fighting for, I don't remember the exact quote,
Yeah.
but it's something like, I'm fighting for a sunrise I'll never see.
Yeah.
Like he knows, like,
That's right.
I'm fighting for something that's,
Yeah.
I'm not going to see that happen. And so they kind of tease that
Marva
anyway.
pushed
I
him
do have
farther
bad news.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I just
that's
saw,
true.
I just saw in the credits over here
Yeah.
at the end of this Andor episode.
Yeah.
Immediately,
Diego
the
Luna's
episode
not
ended.
in season 2.
Well, no, the bad news. This
Oh,
is actually
no.
serious. It said executive producer Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh my goodness.
Which now I'm thinking this show that I love. I
It's
think
gonna
maybe I think
be-
it's not good now.
I thought they had
Because-
settled that
True.
already.
If
That's
Kathy's
true.
involved, I think it must
Cancel
be. Well, they say it must be terrible when you
Cancel
look at
it.
But no, I.
Haven't gotten to use it.
It
yet.
is no. It's
Um,
always. It is. Obviously, I'm joking, but it is funny how if a show doesn't work, or if it doesn't work for you, or it's not your favorite, it's because Kathleen Kennedy's running Star Wars. If it does work, it's because of Tony Gilroy.
It's
Yeah.
because of
Or
Tony
it's
Gilroy.
because
Yes.
of Filoni and
That's
Favreau.
right. That's right.
It's not. We don't give her partial credit for.
I'll be honest
Andor,
with you.
Yeah.
And then it's just.
I do.
I want all the credit and none of the blame.
Yeah, well, all of the credit, none of the. I do have, before we kind of wrap up things, I wanted to talk about some of the stuff we talked about last podcast.
Oh,
Ooh.
Has
Did
since-
did we mess up? Did we need
Has,
to fix
has
What have we
No,
done?
has since
Oh.
been, quote unquote, confirmed by at least all the major sources about
Yeah.
season 2. Some of the things we discussed.
yeah.
Are we in season 2? Yeah, I don't remember. What did we say last
I
episode?
think we.
Do we
I
want to
think
talk
we
about
are.
some of that stuff?
I don't know where you're going, so let's see what you say.
Yes, I will
Um,
say for sure.
You actually were the one who mentioned it. Some with
I don't remember what I said.
with some of the things that might be
Is
playing
this
out
real?
in season
Are
2.
we- is this an actual thing right now? What's happening?
Some of the things that might be playing out in season 2.
I was particularly good last episode. Now that you mention it,
Um,
No, remind me of some.
Remind me of my best
what
moments.
were my
See,
best moments. Best moments.
remind me of my best moments.
Tell me like I'm 5 years old.
But Tarkin's role, some deaths, some massacres that might be coming.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
Do we want to talk a
Okay.
little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess, hence for those
Some massacres.
some massacres that might be
and wigs
And wigs.
Some
Um,
massacres.
for any of those.
Oh,
These
yeah,
might
wait.
be slight spoilers. We don't know. Obviously, we haven't seen the show, so we don't know how these will be played out.
Yeah.
But there are things from comics and some other stories, some legends that apparently are being confirmed to be playing out here
Yeah, we've
in,
kinda
in
seen enough.
Andor. Now, obviously, we don't know how that's going to come across on screen, but some of these things, apparently, from all the big sources, are confirmed to be taking place. So with that, if you don't want to know what that might be, you can.
Which there's footage in the
We can-
trailers.
There are some footage in the
that
that
suggests
that suggests some of this
Yeah,
is going
and
to
it's-
happen.
We don't know. We're guessing too.
Yeah,
So if you want to stick
I'm
around
still
for
guessing
it,
as to where Nate's going with this.
I don't even know.
no, I was
what
just if you want to
it
stick around,
is.
if you don't want any of that to be known before you watch the show,
Yeah,
then maybe skip this last
and
little
don't
bit.
go on the internet
And don't go on the internet. Yes,
that's right.
but
'Cause
or
I will be talking.
read anything or listen to anything.
Darth in the chat said some deaths, some massacres. Let's talk about it.
The
Oh.
Gorman Massacre,
Yes.
Yeah,
which is they from other sources is the true
it's a moment.
beginning.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
It's the true beginning of the rebellion. It's the launch of where the
It's
empire.
the moment that wakes up now.
There is a
more
peaceful
people.
protest,
Yeah.
and the empire slaughters hundreds, if not thousands, of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, season
We
2
see
is
it
going to be
Just
gnarly.
like it's the Boston Massacre.
Yeah.
But it's 50 times, 100 times bigger.
We
Yeah.
think we saw some glimpses of that in the trailer.
the shot heard around the galaxy.
At least where it might be taking place.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, like
Yep.
Uncle's
You
saying.
see them kind of closing it. It looked like
It
you see
looks
the
like the
guards closing in and
stormtroopers and
surrounding
guards
the
are-
I saw a thing where there's the subtitles say "shouting in gore,"
Oh
which
yeah,
would
yes.
be the
That would be
language that
the-
they're
yeah.
using.
Yeah.
Which I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since then, all the reports are confirming that yes, this is happening. Now we don't know if Tarkin's going to be flying in,
Landing on people.
landing his ship on top of people. Apparently, that also. So we don't know if that will actually be happening.
Why
Tony
not?
Gilroy's he's gonna go crazy with that.
But
Yeah, why not?
Knowing Gilroy, it won't surprise me if this plays out pretty brutally. I think for the sake of the tone of the show and to also remind people that the rebellion, you have to paint a picture in this too, that the rebellion is actually, it's hard to paint the picture of the rebellion is actually the good side.
Mhm. Right.
And so in
Until
order
you
to
see
do
how
that,
bad the other
in
side
order
is.
to do that, you have to show just how bad the
That's
empire
right.
actually
Yeah.
is to justify people rebelling
Mhm.
against, the government. Or
Yeah.
This is
essentially.
not. We're rebelling against the man because we don't like rules.
Yeah,
no, you can't
yeah,
tell us what
exactly.
to do. This
Right.
isn't some hipster movement against
Yeah,
just
it
like
is.
the man or
So
whatever.
it
This
is showing
rebelling
actually
against a
have to
murder.
Not that
stand
there's
up.
anything wrong with that.
we have to
Yeah.
stand up
Is
against
there?
this in order
How's
to
it going?
get to a,
Of course not.
to come out alive essentially on the other end.
That's right.
And so in order to do that, you have to show just how bad the empire is, and that's what the
But
Gorman massacre is.
apart from just being kind of sleazy looking and
Yeah.
oppression, this is straight out murder.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is in a blatant public forum.
Right. My wife doesn't like tension and conflict in shows, but you can't have real resolution without a little bit. You can't. Got to get your hands dirty
Yeah.
in order to know what it feels like to have clean
Yeah.
hands,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
And you don't have a good rest until you're super tired. Like you gotta have the negative to get the
Yeah.
positive, and that's what
That's
they're
true.
gonna
That's what they're highlighting. I
show
think,
us.
with
The
this.
question is, how far
How far?
Yeah.
are they gonna go?
Yeah.
Is Tarkin's ship gonna land on a sea of people as he comes in to survey their
Yeah.
Do we
Yeah.
think
what's going on?
Tarkin?
I don't think it will. Actually,
You don't
Do
think
we think-
Tarkin will?
I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think
No,
Tarkin
I don't
will
think so
either.
Do we think Tarkin is in this show? Tarkin.
I
Because
think.
Tarkin's in Rogue One,
I think.
but obviously,
Yeah.
Peter Cushing is not. I mean, they had to.
Yeah,
I
they-
don't know about what you're even able to do or what is frowned upon digitally.
It could
post-
go back to. It can't be Luke. We can go back to
No.
that.
Yeah.
I.
Post strike
Yeah.
Yeah.
AI using likeness.
I believe he'll be in it.
You think he will?
I think he will. I don't think his ship is gonna land on a sea of people.
Yeah, I don't think he will either.
I think.
I do
I-
think
Maybe.
Chewie will be killed by a moon.
True.
Oh, that's-
True.
That's
I-
no moon.
For whatever reason, I don't think he'll be in it. I don't think he'll be in it. If he is in it, I think it'll be very brief. I don't think he'll be in it for the sole purpose that I think they're going to lean more toward director
I was
Krennic.
gonna say because Krennic's
They
in
could.
it.
Because Krennic's in it, I feel like they're going to lean more towards his character, and then we kind of get that resolved in Rogue One, where it's like they're highlighting just how much Krennic is actually doing, maybe,
Yeah.
just so that in Rogue One it emphasizes that even more, that Tarkin just comes in and goes, "Great, thanks, bye."
Mhm.
Like, don't care, I'm taking this.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they will. I think they might lean more toward Krennic and highlighting his, and he might be the Tarkin of the show.
He might
Like,
be.
he's the higher up. He's the
See,
one.
I
don't know.
if I'm remembering, he was directing the building of the Death Star.
Yeah, he was Project
Yes.
Stardust.
Yeah.
So whether
As
or
far
not
as that, he was
the only reason
overseeing
I think Tarkin might be in it is he would be the one to order to give the
The
military.
shut this insurrection
down.
down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that would be that would start or as sometimes happens with a massacre, it's not intended to go that way. Someone reacts and
And
they
then it's
shoot.
It's out of control.
then they
now,
all
so
go.
something happens.
Yeah.
Could be that too. Which he
Could be.
He wouldn't be needed for that.
It could be.
That's actually
Yeah.
more likely to be how they do it.
Could be a
Yeah.
two towers.
They're all afraid.
The
and
two
they-
towers moment where the guy's bow
That's
shakes
how it usually
and then
happens.
shoots first, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah.
happens.
It could be.
But
yeah,
yeah,
no, I think it's interesting. Tarkin in Rebels, because I'm rewatching Rebels right now
Yeah.
with my 3-year-old son Isaiah. If you haven't watched the animated show Star Wars Rebels, check it out. It's great. Tarkin's role, every time they have Tarkin come in, it's usually like, these rebels are a little bit peskier than we thought. All right, we need to shut down this thing, and like it's more of like
eliminate
Yeah.
them.
this little uprising has happened. There's a scuffle in the street.
Shut it down.
You need to shut down this. Don't let anyone out here. And he like orders something to basically stop the chaos in the street of what's going on. But
Yeah.
he's not usually, I'll go check it myself.
Boots on the ground.
But it's like this, yeah.
Yeah.
Krennic, I love Krennic because
He could just be telling
I
Krennic to
think-
get to guiding him on the Death Star stuff.
it could be
Yeah.
too.
He just
Because
does
didn't
action.
season 1 end with them
Yeah.
showing the Death
Yeah,
Star
true.
being
Yeah.
built? So that's the a whole lot
Yeah.
of the
That's where their
Krennic
time is being
storyline is
spent.
going to be
Yeah.
him be involved in the Death Star plans at this point, which
Yeah.
it will be interesting because that's obviously such a big part of Rogue One. I'm interested into what their story is for new, insightful Krennic stuff.
That's right.
Yeah,
Because
true.
I kind of feel like if we didn't get Krennic, even though Krennic's one of my favorite Star
Do we
Wars
get
characters
mentions of
in all
Ursa?
the could be.
He could
Yeah.
be
Some
good
Galen?
Uncle Krennic to Jen. To
True.
Jen.
True.
Uncle.
Oh, look who's back from the dead. Or what is this?
Back from the dead.
I just love Ben Mendelsohn as an actor. Like
He's
I
so
think
great.
he's great from
Yeah.
the moment he
So great.
from the beginning of Rogue One, and he's walking through the field in the windy like
Oh
great.
man.
all the stuff. You're like, there's such a
Why did we land so far away?
it's
Right.
The Death
it's
Troopers.
awesome. So I'm
It's awesome.
glad he's back. Obviously, we talked about Forrest Whitaker being back. Mon Mothma. There's some. This
was
is
just
Mon
watching that
Mothma
clip again.
drawing
It
the
is-
line in the sand and actually
Yeah,
finally leaving.
She
Yeah.
is. She's gonna be.
This is going to be some good, interesting Mon Mothma
Yeah.
in danger. Got to get out of there.
And I
type
love
stuff.
how they've made, they've taken Cassian, who's literally walking in the mud every day,
Yeah.
in the rain, in the muck. And then they have Mon Mothma, who is impeccable, like
Yeah.
Yes.
perfectly
At
kept,
a dinner party.
Yeah.
living on this high
Yeah.
end. And they're both on the same trajectory.
And not only
it's
that,
fascinating.
Yes.
not only
Love
that,
it.
season 2 we actually see Cassian become that.
Move into that world.
Well, we see him with the
they-
slick back hair.
The
and
slick
right.
back
stuff
hair
or
and the
something.
Gotta
sunglasses,
step into that.
and we see
I
we're
almost
gonna
It's gonna
see
be pretty
him.
bad. They're gonna cross. Mon
He's-
Mothma's gonna be
Yeah,
shoveling
he's now playing
cow
the role.
manure.
He's now the Luthen. He's partly what Luthen's doing. Like
That's right.
he's like, all right, we need you to play this role for the rebellion. Let's become this preppy.
He's gonna have
you know,
Luthen.
let's
He's gonna
become
have his
this.
ship.
And so here you go. Boom. This is you now, and this is your role that you're playing.
I just
so
remember.
it'll be interesting seeing them play out, almost place Cassian and place these characters in moments of like, you're playing it. You're
What was
within the show. You're playing a character.
What was the code name? Was it Axis? The code name they gave
Oh.
for Luthen? Was it Axis?
I think it's
Axia?
Is it Axis?
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe,
that's
yeah.
the. I think what's going to happen is they're tracking Luthen as Axis,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's going to switch. It's going to switch to Cassian is stepping into that role, and they're going to just.
They start chasing them.
It's just going to. He is
Yeah.
because Axis is the role.
Yeah.
It's
It
the
might not be the person.
yeah.
It could be they're looking for that.
What's funny is
high
I don't think
level-
it will go this route
see.
because there's no need to. There's no need. I don't think Tony Gilroy is big
Yeah.
into, nor should he be, like tying in these other shows at all.
No.
But in Star Wars Rebels, when the uprising is starting, who's a major part of it is Fulcrum, which is
Fulcrum.
True.
which is
Yeah.
Ahsoka.
Right.
Yeah. It's
now,
an alias.
There's other. This
We could
is-
hear that word. That
Yeah,
name
they
would
could,
come
could.
there
out.
be a,
We could.
like a just a
That
reference
came out
like
in
that.
Ahsoka.
It did.
They mentioned Fulcrum.
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 Didn't Mon Mothma, was it in the council or something? They mentioned Fulcrum or no?
Might have been.
Might
When
have been.
3PO walks in
I
and stuff,
can't
we're like,
remember
oh,
if that was-
Yeah, right. With Hera.
yeah.
The what was it? Oh, I almost forgot. The Mon Mothma's dweeby socialite husband
Yeah.
Oh man.
is just. I also that
Oh,
their
he's
relationship
perfect.
is fascinating
Yeah.
because you just see, man, you are on two different. You're going in two
I am-
different directions
Mhm.
here.
I'm
He's such
interested to
a
see-
It was an arranged
embracer.
marriage, just like
yeah.
how
Yeah,
they do things.
yeah.
Totally.
It was just.
I-
He's such an embracer of that lifestyle.
Oh,
Mhm. And
absolutely.
And she's like, every time she has to dress up to do it, she feels like Luthen putting on the wig of like,
yeah, I'm
we're playing
faking
the
this.
part and this, and he's like, why would we mess up a good thing? This is amazing.
What do you mean?
could you
Well, it
possibly be
seems
upset
yeah,
about?
and with
Yeah,
Mon
this is
Mothma,
great.
it seems like yes, she's playing a role, but she was living the role truthfully beforehand almost. And then when the Empire took over, now it's become I'm no longer this is different. The role
Yeah.
I now have to the role I'm in now is not what I was before.
Mm-hmm.
I now have to blend in and act like I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with all these politicians. Whereas before, I actually had the freedom to fight for
Yeah.
the cause and vote along with these with everybody
Yeah.
else on the council. I got to vote on these things, and now it's like I know this is all a sham, and I'm trying to fit in and agree but not agree behind the scenes. I'm interested to see what all plays out between her and not just her husband but the daughter too,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they seem to
Yeah.
highlight that conflict in the relationship.
Yep.
And it makes me sad to think about, but it makes me think about Luthen and talking about, what have I sacrificed? I've sacrificed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to see her have to
She
get
w-
to a point where
Yeah. She
where
will.
she's now denouncing her, leaving,
Mm-hmm.
the empire,
Yeah.
and is part of that sacrifice showing we have to fight for a better cause, and it's
Mm-hmm.
part of leaving her family, and I don't
The
know.
daughter.
Well,
They had the arranged
daughter,
marriage going,
yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, and she was part of that.
Yeah.
She's agreeing to do
Yeah.
things that she's not wanting to do,
Yeah.
but feels like she has to.
mm-hmm.
So even just more than just the husband, but the whole family dynamic, I'm interested in
Right.
seeing how some of that plays out in this season too.
And we get some K2SO. That'll be fun.
K2SO.
K2.
Seeing
Yeah.
their bond.
More heists.
Connection.
We're probably going to see more like Rebellion, Cassian going in, having these like heists like we did. In the
It's
first
ru-
one, we
yeah.
had really one heist,
Right.
and then we had scuffles,
Mm-hmm.
these battles that took place. But we might see some more of that, of like, we need to get this, we need to hit here, we need to, I don't know.
It's gonna start turning into we need to blow this up.
I would
We
love
need
to
to-
see.
Yeah.
We need to take this guy out.
Yeah.
I would
kinda
love to
stuff's
see
coming.
the administrative. What's Qyburn's character's name, Nate? In this, remember Qyburn from Game of Thrones? He's the head of the.
Oh,
and the white gentleman with the longer hair.
He's
who's
just-
talks to
he's
who's always
dir-
like Dietra.
he's director of some.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who's in charge
Yeah.
of those little like imperial
Mm-hmm.
officer meetings, whatever.
Yeah.
I would love them to.
He's a
he
good
said
character.
Oh, he's great. And I would love to see when they're all like downplaying teachers' ideas, and then a couple times they can lean into it. And they're like, "Oh, look into that." If she starts, because you said like the scuffle versus what was it? What was you said? A scuffle versus
These heists.
a heist.
Mhm.
I would love them to have like stats. You know, like, well, according to Deidre, there's been 4 more scuffles, and there's actually been. Am I
Oh.
reading this right? There's been a full-on heist.
Nice.
Well, Deidre, if you can get my office by my desk tomorrow, if we can get one more heist and a scuffle, we'll take a look at it.
What you care to explain?
I'm trying to
We all
explain
know we
the
don't.
scuffle.
Yeah,
We don't act unless there's half a dozen scuffles.
So
But a
great.
heist. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I love the
debating
no-
whether or not it's a scuffle or an uprising.
Yeah, no fear, no fear, no.
Never.
No.
I mean, the fact that Tarkin, to the moment he dies,
Yeah.
underestimates.
That's one of
the
my
rebellion.
favorite things about
Will
Cassian.
crush the
Mhm.
rebellion one swift stroke. What's funny is what we know by
Yeah.
A New Hope is that this rebellion's been going on and it's now so widespread, and Tarkin's still like, we'll crush it in one stroke.
In his
Right,
mind, they've
no,
been
it's
The Death
crushing.
everywhere.
Star is
Yeah.
going to end all of this as soon as
Yep.
we show the power of the Death
Yeah.
Star. Everyone will finally.
Yeah.
This will not. This couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
Ignite a fire
Yeah.
in even more people.
No,
to
Right.
Yeah.
Don't even
turn
know what
against
it
We're going to
is.
show that the Death
I
Star
know-
is for good.
Yeah.
Even though it's called the Death Star.
And I know
Yeah.
we got to wrap up here, but
That is,
I-
that is a misnomer.
one of my favorite things about Cassian talking about that in season 1, when he's talking with Luthen, is like, he's like, "How'd you get this?" Or whatever. He's like, they're so arrogant. Essentially, I walked right in and took it
Mhm.
because they can't imagine
That anyone.
that anyone would do that.
Mhm.
They're so, I forget the word,
Fat.
but that he's
Yeah,
like, they're
so-
so
yeah.
Arrogant.
they're so fat and
Full of
arrogant,
themselves.
yeah, that they would never expect that. So what I do, I just walk
Just
right
walk
in.
in
and
like I belong there.
yeah, and then you kind of see even Luthen's head turning a little bit, like,
That's what we.
that's what we need to do.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But that was, you're talking about how arrogant they are, and Tarkin not thinking nothing could happen to us.
Mhm.
That's the exactly right there with Andor. But
I
there
love
you
it.
have it.
I'm excited.
Um,
Can't wait. We're now just weeks away.
We're gonna keep talking about it.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Andor
And
season 2.
we may have a surprise for next time too.
True.
Yeah. Diego Luna is on the podcast.
Diego.
Yeah.
In fact, he's gonna.
Diego.
No,
been-
maybe next time.
No.
Yeah.
Apologies to Diego Luna. We ran out of time. That's the,
That was.
that's the whole
apologies
apologies to Matt
Apologies
Damon.
to
We ran
Matt
out of
Damon.
time. Apologies to
That is one of Rachel's
it.
Star Wars names is Mom Mothma.
Oh.
Ooh, that's good.
It's very
That's a
good.
good
That is good.
Mike DeLorean is the best.
Mike
I
DeLorean?
came
Yeah.
up with.
Dad Bane. I'm loving it.
Dad
Bane.
Bane
Dad
is
Bane's
great.
I'm
good.
living with
I
Dad
haven't-
Bane.
Dad Bane. That is good.
I'm also
That's good.
Dad. I could be Dad Bane.
Dad Bane.
I like that.
So there you have it. Andor season 2 rebellions are built on hope and blowing stuff up.
Blowing stuff up.
Um,
Stuff up.
we're excited. Can't wait. Let us know your thoughts if you made it this far. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash the notification bell. Tell a friend about us here at Star Wars Guys, and drop your comments in the below the video. Let us know your predictions for season 2.
And what
you're
you
most
want us to
excited
talk about coming up?
Yeah, what do you want us to talk
What
about?
do you want?
What are you doing?
What are you
But
talking about?
There you have it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the next episode, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Rebellions are built on hope. What is she proposing? What's the new one? What's the new one?
do
What's
it.
she on about?
What's he on about?
What's so funny is now we hear it like
I
it's
love
louder
Skeleton
than Jen.
Crew.
Yeah, exactly.
My mind, he's like, he sticks his face in. What's she proposing?
Exactly.
It's like,
It's just
way-
shouting. It's
Ah.
just a background. Like on your first watch, you might not even catch it.
Guys,
What's she on?
I miss Skeleton Crew.
Such a great. What's
I
she
do
on
too.
about?
I miss
You gotta
Skeleton
wa-
Crew.
yeah.
It was so good.
So good.
Give us Skelly
good.
2. Skelly.
And Isaiah, if
Season
you're
2.
watching, what do pirates love more than anything? Treasure.
Treasure.
We say it every night
It's one of
before our
the-
prayers.
We say it every night.
It's
I
one of the
love
three
it.
main facts of the